What's up, collectors? Today I've got 3 forgotten sci-fi gems that you probably haven't heard of that I've been watching over the last couple weeks. I'm going to tell you all about the films in this video and let you know where you can get a copy for yourself. I'm also going to be announcing a winner at the end of this video for the 4K Paramount sale giveaway, so make sure you watch to the end of the video to find out if you are the lucky winner. All right, jumping right into the reviews here, we've got a beautiful deluxe edition boutique box set release for Gwen and the Book of Sand, a post-apocalyptic fable from 1985, directed by Jean-François Leguigny, who is a wonderful French animator with a very unique visual style. I was reminded the entire time of Fantastic Planet, another classic sci-fi animated film, if you're familiar with this. Very similar, and I would say on the same level. I think this absolutely should be remembered as well as Fantastic Planet from René Laloux. Jean-François Leguigny is another incredible animator. This is his first debut feature, but he did spend many years honing his craft, making several short films. But this is a full 65-minute film about a desert scavenger tribe living in this post-apocalyptic world. And the main character is Gwen, a teenager who begins to form a little romance, a relationship with this teenage boy, but then he is kidnapped, and the rest of the film is her going on an adventure with the boy's grandmother and what they find along the way when they get there that reveals a bunch of secrets about the world they're living in. There's a lot of classic sci-fi ideas in here. You've got some anti-consumerist social commentary. You've also got some fun religious commentary, which I wasn't expecting, but I did enjoy. This is a very interesting world. It's a very mysterious world. There's a lot of parallels with something like Dune, with the desert landscape and the tribe that's trying to survive. There is this mythical sci-fi being that every once in a while drops off normal everyday household objects, these giant versions of household objects like refrigerators and clocks, very Salvador Dali-esque. I loved the visuals in this. The story is great. It's a little bit more emotional and personal than something like Fantastic Planet. So if you love the visuals in Fantastic Planet, but you found it a little hollow, a little sterile, then I highly recommend checking out Gwen. It does I don't want to say a better job because they're doing different things, but if that's more your cup of tea, this one really worked for me, really spoke to me, and the visuals are really the reason to check this out. Similar to Fantastic Planet, it uses paper cutouts, but this time it's paired with fully hand-painted with gouache paint images. So you can actually see the texture on the screen. This is a 4K restoration, so it looks amazing. The detail is there. You can see the brushstrokes on the screen. The animation, when it wants to be, is very fluid. Like Fantastic Planet, it is very static a lot of the time, or about half the time, but when they do show motion, it looks so good. Love the visuals of this film. I'll be showing some on the screen while I'm talking about it, and I'll show you some of the visuals in the booklet as well. Let's go ahead and get to the rest of the stuff in here, because this is a film that I enjoyed thinking about afterwards almost as much as I enjoyed watching it, because there's a lot of supplements packed in here, like Deaf Crocodile always does. There's a commentary on this disc by Sam Dagan, which I really enjoyed. She was very knowledgeable. I learned a lot from that. There's also a video essay, which is another team up of Ryan Verrill from The Disconnected and Professor Dr. Will Dobson, the same pair that did the commentary on the recent 4K release of Felidae. I loved that commentary, so I got so excited actually when I heard his voice start talking at the beginning of the video essay. Got a whole bunch out of that as well. He's got a perspective on this film that I wasn't even thinking about. He goes into this full, pretty lengthy expose about time and our relationship with time, not just our personal relationship with time and death, but also as a species in general, and how we cope with time and death by creating these constructs of society and religion all around it. And it was fascinating. I enjoyed listening to that and thinking about it after the movie almost as much as I enjoyed looking at the film itself. You've got 2 discs in here. There's the 4K and the Blu-ray as well. Both discs are identical. You've got the supplements on both discs, which is really nice. Then the booklet is always a treat from Deaf Crocodile. They've got some essays in there about the film, like they always do, from Jennifer Barker and Walter Chaw. But the real reason I say to read this is the essay that opens the book, which is from the director himself, telling the story. It's called Once Upon a Time There Was Gwen, telling the story about how they made this film. And that story is almost as interesting as the film itself. It was a labor of love, a passion project. The director working on it himself with a tiny group of animators in this tiny little town in southern France. It took him like 4 years doing nothing but just working on this film. It's amazing that we even have this, and I'm so happy that Deaf Crocodile's put out a beautiful release that makes it easy for us to watch this film, because I think it absolutely should be remembered. It is a beautiful animated film, could be shown to kids. There's nothing in it that's inappropriate for kids, but it's definitely geared toward an adult audience. Very slow, thoughtful, and serious, beautifully animated film. One of my top 5 of Deaf Crocodile so far. I've enjoyed all the Deaf Crocodile films I've seen to varying degrees, but I gotta say, this is top 5. This is up there with The Outcasts for me. This is up there with Pied Piper, Heroic Times, some of the Tushko films. I really enjoyed this. I got a lot out of it. Next, we're gonna go in a completely different direction, but still sci-fi. This is a double feature of East German utopian sci-fi films from the same director, whose name is Gottfried Kolditz, and these came out in the 1970s. We've got Signals, a space adventure, and also In the Dust of the Stars. We're gonna start with Signals first. This is a straight up, I don't want to say ripoff of 2001: A Space Odyssey, but is heavily influenced by 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's the main influence you're going to notice as soon as you pop this in. You're probably also going to think of Star Trek right off the bat, but I did learn on the commentary that Star Trek didn't even reach Germany until after this was already made, which is pretty interesting considering all of the similarities between these two. This is a space opera. It takes place entirely in space on a ship, except for the prologue and the epilogue. There is a distress signal that's heard. There's a ship in the beginning, in the opening, that we see disappear, gets lost in space, and then the whole mission in this movie is to find that spaceship. Although not everyone on board knows that. The captain's kind of keeping that under his hat. It's kind of a mystery for the rest of the crew. They just think they're on a routine maintenance mission. The highlight of this is definitely the special effects. They're looking heavily at 2001. There's a lot of model work, some really, really detailed model work. This is a lower budget film, right around $5 million. It doesn't have the budget of 2001, but they do some incredible work with models and wires to put some really nice special effects in this film. It takes the space scenes very seriously. There are several scenes where the cosmonauts have to go to the outside of the ship and make repairs. It drops out all the music, all the sound effects, and there's just these slow, tense scenes of them outside in space. So those scenes are very similar to 2001. This is also shot in 70mm, so everything looks really, really nice. But what this has that 2001 doesn't have is some levity and some fun. This is a utopian society, so the crew is very diverse. You've got men, women, people from all different nations. I think there's an Egyptian crew member, there is an Indian crew member, there's a crew member from Vietnam. It's very diverse, which is interesting because they didn't have that Star Trek influence yet. A little bit ahead of its time in that way. So everyone's super flirty, everyone's having fun. Like I said, the crew doesn't know the gravity of the situation that they're in, so they're having fun, talking, flirting with each other, having parties. There's a robot on board that they have make drinks for them. Some great mid-century modern costume design and furniture design. Very 60s. This came out right in 1970, so we're right off the 60s, and that influence is still there in the costume design, in the set design, in the score. There's a real bouncy 60s score. That's a lot of fun. There is also, like I said, an opening prologue and epilogue where the astronauts are on Earth and they're just running around on the beach, doing flips, doing handstands, like goofing off. It's very, very silly. It feels just like a 60s beach movie. I really enjoyed the contrast between the goofy, silly 60s stuff and the more serious space scenes. That might not work for everybody, but for me, that kept it pretty fresh because this is a very simple story. Like I said, they're just going up into space looking for some lost crew members. There's no bad guys. This is a utopia. There's no villains. There's no bad guys. The only conflict comes from nature. It's kind of a disaster story. I really enjoyed this as just a very low-key, slow-paced day in the life of an astronaut film, which is what it is. Both of these were made in Germany under the DEFA studio, which was the state-owned socialist film studio. So they're supposed to be about these utopian, everyday life people, but it's in space. It's a space opera. So I found that one very fun. The other one, though, completely different. These could not be more different other than they're both space operas. I feel like you're going to like one of these over the other because they're so different. This other one, you can see, came out in 1976, and you can see how different sci-fi has become in just 6 years. This is taking a lot more inspiration from things like Zardos. This is looking back to like Barbarella. This is introducing some more fantasy concepts into sci-fi. This is also utopian, but this is much more like an episode of Star Trek where we just land on a planet and we're figuring out what in the world's going on. This is a very strange, weird planet, different than what our crew is used to. Another very diverse crew. There's a woman commander of the ship. They don't call any attention to it. It's just matter of fact, she's the commander. They get a distress call, they travel to this planet, and then when they get there, it's nothing like they expected. They don't know anything about the distress call. They're just this planet that is partying and doing these kind of spray drugs and just having the time of their lives. This is much more of an exploitation film. There's a lot of nudity, a lot of scantily clad women in this one. You kind of have no idea what's going on. There's this mystery. What are the inhabitants of this planet really doing? Then you find out they're not the inhabitants of this planet, and they've enslaved the actual inhabitants of the planet. This goes in the complete opposite direction. There is a villain here, and it is an amazing, over-the-top, crazy performance. He's constantly changing wardrobe. He's changing the color of his hair. He's flamboyant. He's over-the-top. He's crazy. You never know what he's gonna do. Like I said, the complete opposite of Signals: A Space Adventure. This is much more like 2001: A Space Odyssey. In the Dust of the Stars, like I said, Zardos. This comes out the same year as Logan's Run. Vastly different kind of sci-fi film, and that is what's so interesting about this set. I like that Deaf Crocodile included these together because I really enjoyed watching how sci-fi has changed over that 6-year period, more so than I would have just enjoyed watching one of these films by themselves. I'll show you what's inside as well. We've got the standard supplements and a booklet here as well. This is a much thicker booklet because you've got 2 films that we're covering here, so 74 pages in here. Look at this. There's that villain I was telling you about. He's got a giant snake with him the entire movie. It's crazy. It's wacky. This pushes the costuming even more. There he is again with his cape. Even the crew themselves, when they go to all of these groovy 1970s parties on this planet, are wearing these huge, flamboyant leather mesh costumes. It pushes way further than the first one, and I feel like more people might like this one just because it's so weird. Here we go. We've got both discs, 2 Blu-rays, or 1 film on each. This is not a 4K restoration, but it is made from the brand new 6K restoration that DIFA Studios just did, I believe, the last couple of years. So it looks really, really good, even though these just are Blu-rays. Had a great time watching both of these. The comparison is a lot of fun, and I recommend watching them, pretty much back to back because you're going to get a lot more out of it. I'll briefly mention the supplements because there's just a few on here. You've got a new commentary by film historian and comics artist for Swamp Thing, Stephen Bissett, and then he's joined by Dr. Mariana Ovanova, who is actually from the DIFA Film Library, who's responsible for the 6K restoration of these. And then there's a great video essay that's on both discs that compares both films, and that's by film historian Evan Chester. And I got a lot out of that as well. That was very informative. So a very different, much more surreal take on a sci-fi film. And I will say the ending didn't go exactly where I thought it was. It's a little bit more of an interesting ending than I was expecting, but overall I did enjoy Signals more, and I think I'm kind of in the minority on that one, at least based on the Letterboxd reviews that I read. Most people seem to enjoy In the Dust of the Stars more for the wacky, crazy, over-the-top, groovy 70s almost exploitation film, like I said, but I did enjoy that very utopian, straight-up sci-fi film a little bit more, but that's just me. I don't know if these are going to be everybody's cup of tea. Like I say, with every Deaf Crocodile release, your mileage may vary. So 2 very different deluxe editions from Deaf Crocodile this month, but 2 great additions to their collection. If anything I said sounds interesting to you, you can get those at deafcrocodile.com or at Diabolic DVD. They distribute Deaf Crocodile titles as well. Let's go ahead and jump into the giveaway for the month of March. Barnes & Noble was having a Paramount sale all month long, and they sent me a few titles to give away to you guys. We've got a 4K copy of The Truman Show right here, and then the relatively new releases of Galaxy Quest and White Christmas also on 4K with slipcover. I'm going to be giving all of these away to one lucky winner. We had a lot of people enter this giveaway. I had like 175 comments, something like that. Thank you all so much for joining, but I can only pick one winner, and that winner today is going to be at Lost in the Noise, who left a comment saying that they would love to see a Kino Lorber 50% off sale. I think that's coming soon. I don't know when, but Barnes & Noble has definitely done Kino Lorber sales in the past, so stay tuned. Maybe another one will come to your store soon. All you got to do is shoot me an email at this email address at the bottom of the screen, and I will throw all 3 of these in a box with some bubble wrap and send them your way. Thank you so much for entering, and thank everyone for watching and commenting on this video. Be sure to let me know if you have any questions or other film recommendations for me. And until next time, keep collecting.